Hey, everybody. How's it going? Mike Hodges here. So, guys, today I thought, again, I want to reemphasize here at Change and Prosper, what we do is we help people become the best possible version of themselves in their business life and also in their personal life as well. We're not going to be able to grow and accomplish the things that we want to accomplish and get done the things that we want to get done in life unless and until we start paying attention to ourselves. We have to grow into being the kind of people that can get the things that we want to get. We can't just go out and make more money, lose weight, do some stuff. You have to grow into a different person. You have to become something better than you are now in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish. And so today, and I always try and talk about that. There's a lot of different ways we can talk about that. There's a lot of different aspects to that. Today I wanted to ask you something. I wanted to ask you, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of in your business and your personal life? Because if you stop and think about it, a lot of what you do is based on fear, whether you realize it or not. Are you afraid of not doing something because you might lose money? Are you afraid of not starting your own business or branching out into a new product line because it might not work? Are you afraid of being embarrassed? Are you afraid of trying something and having people talk behind your back? There's any number of different things that can sabotage people. I want you to think about that for just a second. What is it that you want? What's holding you back? Why aren't you doing something that you really want to do? You've made the commitment. It's your goal. You want to do it. You're not doing it. What are you afraid of? And then I want you to dig deep and kind of peel back that onion a little bit, because there's different layers to failure. You can just say, well, I'm afraid I'll fail. I won't make it if I try. But why? Who are you trying to impress? What's so wrong about that? I'll tell you a quick story. Years ago, when I worked for the federal government then as now would have these arguments between the Congress and the president about shutting down the government. And what would wind up happening was they would get into an argument. They'd send us home for 2 or 3 days. Eventually, they would finally fix that argument. They'd come to a deal. And then we would get paid for the money that we missed, even though we get paid for those days off, even though we didn't show up to work. Their reasoning was, well, these people are ready, willing, and able to show up to work. It's not their fault we can't agree on a budget, so it wouldn't really be fair to penalize them. So we would just stay home for a couple of days and we'd get paid anyway. But there was one year in which there was some talk. The rumor mill said that they weren't going to do that people were going to play hardball, that, look, the government workers were going to bear the responsibility, bear the brunt if we couldn't strike a deal. So when I heard those rumors, I was a younger guy, and I thought, I can't afford this. I can't afford 2 or 3 days off. I don't think it'll happen, but I can't afford it. So I went out and got a job at Pizza Hut. I started waiting tables at Pizza Hut and started to pick up some money. My thinking was, well, if I work at Pizza Hut for a month or two and then they shut down the government for 3 days or a week, it won't totally kill me financially. I can't afford to take the hit, but hopefully I can make enough money to maybe make up for it, or at least so that it won't hurt quite so bad. And while I was there, at the time I was taking karate. That's where I met my wife. And one day when I was working tables in the Pizza Hut, one of my karate instructors walked in and saw me in the uniform, said, "Hey, Mike, how's it going?" And I talked to him, chatted for a minute. And I remember feeling really embarrassed and really kind of like, not almost afraid that he would somehow think less of me. And I don't know why really. I do now. At the time, I didn't really know why I felt that way. Come to realize what I was afraid of was that he knew me personally, and he knew that I'd started out working manual labor, working fast food. I'd worked my way up. I had got a good job, and all of a sudden I was afraid, wow, maybe when he sees me here, maybe he'll think I got laid off at my job and I can't get another job, and now I'm scrambling to do this. Maybe he would somehow think less of me, and it bothered me at the time. Now, fortunately, he was a cool guy. We talked, God bless his soul. He's gone now, but he was a good man. He was very polite, very cool. We had a nice conversation, and that was that. But I remember afterwards, I was kind of nervous. I think, man, I hope nobody else comes in here. I didn't want him to see me doing this. Didn't want him to see me working my side hustle. Well, that's flawed thinking for a couple of things. That kind of being afraid of my reputation, I guess you could say, was flawed thinking in a couple of different ways. First of all, and foremost, nobody really cares what's going on. They're probably not going to think too much one way or another because they've got too much stuff going on in their own life. If they do stop and reflect on it, they'll probably say, well, if he is falling on hard times, I hope it gets better. And that one small possibility, if they laugh at me or talk about me behind my back, well, he had a good job, but now he lost it and he's scrambling and he's hustling. You know what? Those aren't really the kind of people you want to concern yourself with anyway. Who cares what they think? Frankly, they're assholes. If people treat you that way, they're assholes. But that's the kind of thinking that can kind of creep in. Now, fortunately, it didn't have a negative effect on me. I kept working at that job, and it turned out that was a real blessing in disguise. The government did shut down that year. I did miss 3 or 4 days, but the rumors were not true. I got paid for them anyway, so all that Pizza Hut money was gravy. It was surplus, and I used it to buy my first house. So I let the fear of something happen. I took action, and it actually wound up being something good. But it almost didn't happen if I had really let that fear overcome my decision making and not take the job, not take the side hustle. So I would ask you guys, what in your life is holding you back along those lines? Is it your parents? Is it, you're trying to live up to the expectations of your mom or your dad or your spouse or your kids? Are you afraid of keeping up with the Joneses? Take a hard look at this. It's very insidious. I think you'll find that it exists a lot more than you think it does. And after you identify that fear, sit down and really, take a look at it. That might be something good to do this weekend. Maybe when you're just kicking back, take a few minutes and reflect on this. Why aren't you going out there and doing the things that you want to do? Why aren't you getting stuff done? And if it's based on, well, I'm hesitant to do this or I'm reluctant to do that, what are you afraid of? What's the worst thing that can happen? And I'll bet if you really dug into some of your fears and some of your doubts, you'd realize that, one, most of them aren't going to happen. Most of them exist only in your imagination. They're fear-based imaginary problems. And number two, those that do exist, there is a possibility that it might not work. You're probably exaggerating the importance of them, or you're perhaps not looking at it from the right perspective. Fear is a terribly destructive emotion. It influences what we do in a lot of ways that most of us don't care to admit, but it's true, and we're never going to get better unless we face up to our own fears and admit that maybe we're doing stuff that we shouldn't do. So guys, take a few minutes and think about that. What are you afraid of? Who are you trying to impress? Why does this bother you? You've got one life to live. Get out there, get it done. Be the best version of yourself. Take your shot. Don't hold anything back, and at the end of the day, you'll succeed or you'll learn a good lesson if you fail. Don't let your fear of failure or your fear of anything else get in the way. And guys, take care. Have a fantastic day. Be well. Peace.